So guys, again, hopefully you have looked up here, but you need to have your relevant application, that document, open from last week. You were supposed to write some procedures. I don't know whether or not you were able to finish that in the room, so I did tell you that your homework would be to work on those independently if necessary, and then come back together today and discuss as a group. So that's what you should be doing right now, is making sure that everybody agrees on your procedures and that everybody has them typed into their document. So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to make sure that you have procedures there so that you know what it is that you need to do today. Because today you're going to actually conduct the experiment that you designed, and you're going to actually collect the data. So let me open up the RA real quick so I can show you where you should be typing. So again, this is the document. You should have your own copy of this in Schoology. Whenever you go in there, you can just click My Document and you can edit that right there. But everybody is typing in their own, okay? So everybody has their own. This is where you are adding your procedures. I put step 1 in there for you. Gather all materials from the teacher. Those materials include the car, a meter stick, tape, or position markers for the floor. I'm going to tell you this right now. I do have some tape, but y'all can just use little strips of paper if you want to just cut a piece of paper up or something to just mark positions on the floor. And then you will be able to use a stopwatch app on your phone today. Again, you only really need one person to have that out. Some of you have phones out right now, and again, you shouldn't have them out right now because we're not using them yet. So if you could put those away. But you will be able to use it once you are actually collecting your data. Again, this is where you're typing the procedures, so make sure that you read these directions and make sure that you include at least 5 data points. Okay, just as a quick question, do you think that it would be good to say, I'm going to measure how long it takes this car to travel 3 meters and I'm going to do it 5 times? Do you think that is what I mean by 5 data points? No, it is not, okay? That gives you 1 data point because you could average it, okay? But I need 5 data points, so that you need to keep that in mind whenever you're typing out your procedure. So I'm going to give you all another minute to discuss amongst yourselves, figure out what you think that procedure is going to look like. If you think you have something and you want me to read it, because I would definitely recommend that you do that, you can let me know and I can come over there and look at it. But again, please finish typing out some procedures first. If you're ready for me to look at that, I'll do that, and then we can discuss them. All right, guys, let me ask you a question, okay? Because I know some of you are finished or finishing, some of you are still working. But let me ask you this question real quick. Whenever you're designing this experiment, again, I mentioned the 5 data points. You should have 5 measurements, but you should have an independent and a dependent variable. Last week when we talked about this, we discussed that we could measure both distance and time. When I asked you how you could tell me how fast these cars are, you said we can measure distance, we can measure time. Okay, from those 2 variables, which one pretty much always shows up as your independent variable that would be plotted on your x-axis, distance or time? Time. Time is pretty much always an independent variable. So that would be a really good way to design your experiment. I will say this, I had some people that did not design it that way last period. You can still get the data to graph it. You're still going to need to graph time on your x-axis though. Okay, it is your independent variable because how far this thing goes depends on how long you let it go. If you let it go for 5 seconds, it's going to go farther than if you let it go for 1 second. Okay, so time really is your independent variable in this scenario. Okay, but some people had their setup where they were like, okay, I'm going to measure how long it takes this car to go 20 centimeters and then 40 and then 60 and so on and so forth. And that's fine. You're not setting up with time as your independent variable that way, but you could do that. Okay, or maybe you did, I'm going to see how far it goes in 1 second and 2 seconds and 3 seconds or whatever increments you chose. Okay, but I just handed each of you a car, so let me show you real quick where you need to put that information because the cars are numbered. So again, this is where your procedures go. If you keep scrolling, you have some pre-lab questions. In fact, I just talked about independent and dependent variables. You can also think about things that you need to control to make sure that you get valid data. But if you keep going, you're going to be performing this experiment today and gathering your data, and this is where your data goes. Next to car, there is a blank. This blank is here because I handed you a car. It's either red or blue in its number. There is a red 1, there is a blue 1, there is a red 2, there is a blue 2, so on and so forth. This is where you're going to type which car you have, because you are going to be making predictions for that specific car later on, so you need to know which one it is. Okay, so please make sure that you record which car you have. Okay, so if it's red car number 2, it needs to say red car number 2. If it's blue car number 8, it needs to say blue car number 8. Okay, but you're going to put that in here. This is, of course, where you're going to be recording your data later on, time and positions. And then you have questions that will go with it afterward. Of course, you can't do this until you've actually collected the data. So this is your task today, is to make sure before you leave today that you have completed this data table. Okay, you can do the rest of it at home. You can answer the questions at home. You can make the graphs at home. You cannot collect the data at home because you do not have this car at home, and no, you cannot take it with you. So you need to get your data collected today before you leave. The rest of it can be done for homework if you need to. Okay, now I'm hoping some of you have some procedures that you're ready to let me look at. If so, you can let me know, and I can come around and check those for you. Before you get started, it'd be a good idea to have me look at it. Okay, your homework will be to finish part 1 of the RA. That's your data collection. Really, you can't do that for homework, but you can work on the position time graph, and you can do the graph analysis. I will say this, and I'm going to pull the RA back up. Sorry, I'm going back and forth. It does have some directions here on how to actually make the graph. Okay, in order for you to actually graph this, you're going to need to download this program, Vernier Graphical Analysis, onto your computer. It is free. If you are on a Chromebook, which if you're using the school computer you are, you just need to search Vernier Graphical Analysis Chromebook. Okay, if you search that, it'll bring you to like the Play Store, the Chromebook store, and you can download the app. If you're using your own computer that you brought from home, the downloads are free. You should be able to do that as well. There should be one for Mac, PC, and Chrome. You might have to go, type in your search bar differently if you're using something else. But again, go ahead and download Vernier Graphical Analysis to your Chromebook. You need to go ahead and have that going in the background. That way, once you're ready with the data, you can just work on the graph. And guys, I saw a lot of people making graphs last period that did not read and follow these directions. So please make sure that you read them so that you're not losing points later on. Again, you can't make the graph until you get the data. So please let me know whenever you are ready to have me look at your procedures, when you think you are ready to actually start collecting data. The meter sticks you're going to need are on the back counter. I already handed you a car, and you do have my permission today to use a cell phone as a stopwatch in order to gather your data. So if you have procedures ready, please let me know. Otherwise, finish that first, but you'll need to finish it quickly so that we can get our data collected, and then you guys can get started.